ado. What's known as the Ardsel Card. See the base of the very first commercial train line as we just leave, and as I said, we're leaving out of Manchester into Salford now for a very special occasion. Without further ado, summer solstice and Lock 1, Manchester, Bury and Bolton Canal, where we start out today. We're going to plod along into Salford, see its old university, try and find Pendleton, and find the old route of the canal which is missing. And the part that is there, as you will see, is a little bit sad. I'm not very impressed with it, but it's good enough to show people where the canal was and how it entered Manchester from Salford. So they all come down into like the Castlefield Basin area. Manchester Ship Canal was not completed until 1890s, 1888 I think. Like 1888 I think. But, which is pretty late really, the Industrial Revolution. That's mainly due to the Mersey docks, marina, charging extortionate prices. So they built their own canal and their own docks. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you around here. And we're heading up, starting Lock 1, and like I say, it's going to be a classic style as I walk along now. What we actually do now is explain the specifications and the history of the canal. And then there's loads of information. You would know we've been over to the start of the Rochdale Canal, which ends here. Also all the way up in Macclesfield Canal and that area. They also end up here. So from there we've got an exploration of Manchester, and it's time to leave and head up. Gonna get the 13 arches fired up, which is good enough to look forward to. Nice to see. It's not like this one going to disrepair, isn't it? Anyone would think they were making sure that land stayed up for sale, wouldn't they? Who knows? Might just be, chance. So the canal's plonked in the middle. The church would have been original. The train line is part of the original Stephenson's steam train, crossed over where we saw that Ardsel Card and we came from. We've seen, I think it's Chapel Wharf, Stanley Street, Stanley Road I walked down. Yeah, we've got Liverpool Street and some information, but we're going to try and get summer solstice. You get very unusual colours, you see. But the train line I was just explaining there. See, it's older there. The original Stephenson steam train crossed the Irwell, and the original station was supposed to be on this side, but instead the station's on the other side in Manchester. This line connected on this end to Victoria Station. That wouldn't have been there, but it was a different. That would have gone to the northeast of Manchester. That's the northwest of Manchester. And it doesn't travel any further north. You have to travel to one of those other stations to travel to other destinations.
The rocket could go faster than anything else ever built by humans in the history of the world. No chariot, No sailing ship could possibly keep up with it. It was the start of our enduring obsession with speed. The rocket was so well designed that it would go on to become the blueprint for all steam engines for the next 130 years. That's how good it was. With all the elements now in place, the scene was set for the opening of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway on September the 15th, 1830. Tens of thousands lined the streets to see the rocket and 7 other engines speed their way between the two cities. The railway was immediately wildly successful, and it changed Britain forever. It inspired a nationwide thirst for travel that led to a frenzy of rail construction, connecting the whole of Britain for the first time in its history. And it would make George and Robert Stephenson world famous as the men who had not only built the Liverpool and Manchester, but designed the rocket too. George was right. He did do something to astonish all England. But the railways did more than that. They went on to open up the entire world.
If heaven is a place upon your skin that I may have touched from without to within, and dust yourself with fingerprints and grin. 'Cause we're not going to stay with these people whose ideas are just what other people say. We can walk away from the feelings that are filling up our lives today.
So a quick word on our heritage walking along. It's nice to see what it would have looked like. This is for nostalgic purposes really. Historic reconstruction. But of course it doesn't lead anywhere. Unfortunately, no one's invested in Manchester, Bolton, Canal. But I'm just going to have one word, says I do talk about heritage. I think it'd be worth investing in. I'm not sure how much it'd cost, but probably in millions. But if you think people from Manchester, if you put a good cycle path, all these big city tower blocks, you could link them up to Bury. You could even open it as a narrowboat channel, and I bet you would make money. I bet you any money, this is not out of, you know, in a realistic manner, and people would be interested if you maybe even charge for it. Do it as a private, which I wouldn't agree with, to be honest, but you know, there must be money available. It's one of those successful cities in the whole world, and it's constantly, you know, they're building for private investors all the time. Well, I can't just put their hands in their pockets, I'll chuck $1 million in each. Restore this to its former glory, make it, you know, put lights here and stuff. I feel like I'm going to get mugged. I feel like I'm on that TV programme, Life on Mars, and I've just arrived back in time. Someone's chucked a barrel of waste in. Right, that's an overflow down to the river, so forget that. And that so that's important too. As I said, I'm doing it classic style because it's a special occasion. Manchester, Bury and Bolton Canal. As I say, I like to do things when it's twilight to show its twilight years, but I don't want it to go too dark. So as I said, the introduction will be the conclusion, because Lot 1 is the way out for all the goods from up in Bury and Bolton and all the places in between that, including like Prestbury, Prestoley, Forest Bank. It would have supplied Agecroft Power Station all the way through Clifton and Village Park Hall, also the university site, and there's a hospital in that area which also would have possibly used the canal for supplies.
Okay, so there she is then, the brand new Stephenson's rocket, completely by
Pendleton. So it does feel quite cool to be explaining something important, and this is about time. It's not about history, it's not about the city of Manchester. Time, and the way you can measure it by studying history and the changes that occur are like summer solstices, as the Romans used to, and the Druids. But the most important thing, I'll give you an example right now. So this is my conclusion to the Bury Bolton Canal. It is probably the most recent thing I've filmed, and it's probably, you know, I'm quite as experienced as I'm going to be at this point. So as you go down, that older stuff then becomes in the past, but what I'm saying is what is current and you might watch first is actually the last thing. So the start of this video, even now, we're not at the end. So the very first thing I say is the very last thing I've ever filmed. So the very last word, even on this video, is closer to the last video, if you know what I mean. So the very first word at the end of this video will be the most recent thing I've filmed. So if you go down back through the channels, it will pace backwards but also progress forwards, which is another fascinating thing about time. So let's carry on with the Bury Bolton Canal.
And I guess that I've been singing all my life. Well, that's right, that is fine. I've been spending all your money and your time. Well, that's right, that is fine. I'm not going to stay with these feelings that are filling up my life for days. I will walk away. And the people whose ideas are just what other people say. And the crowd that is gathered is confused, trembling inside in solitude. They've got nothing left to use. They've got all the bullets, but there's no one left to shoot. They don't walk away. These people whose ideas are just what other people say. They stay with the feelings that are filling up their lives day and day. If heaven is a place upon your skin that I may have touched from without to within, then dust yourself with fingerprints and grin.
So the very first steam train station was opened on the 15th of the 9th, 1830. It's intact, which is pretty rare. Around here it is anyway. As you've seen, the industry smashes pretty much everything out of the way. The first true intercity railway, that's what the Rocket Liverpool-Manchester line was. It's the first to have stations and fares, which it had to come up with. So at first it just linked Manchester to Liverpool as a challenge, and then they realised they should have stations along the way, and it evolved into a train station. It's created everything from signal boxes to waiting rooms, platforms or halts, and even level crossings. Level means that the road or the path is at the same level as the tracks, so the traffic has to be stopped for the train to go through. But a lot of times it's usually the road will go through a tunnel or the path will go through over a bridge, etc. The original station was supposed to be over on the Salford side, because the line's on the Salford side. Sometimes I do drop little outtakes in. So nothing against dogs, but you should be able to control your dog. In my opinion, enough to say quiet, and it will be. That's all. You know, if you train them proper, you can do that. You want to be on this side of the Irwell to get to Liverpool. You'd end up in the Wirral on the other side. So as we leave the city centre, it's the age of hydraulic power, the steam age, canal, tunnels, and hopefully getting lost in the dark. We'll leave that behind us as well. I'd like to mention most of the facts I spotted in the Salford area when we got lost. The stuff I pointed out along to Agecroft Cemetery. So the previous facts are in fact correct. I've double checked those things. I was stood one night saying, I've got a feeling I'm near the canal, and I was literally stood in it. Or over a tunnel that appears in the Salford University campus, which I never found, but I'm happy enough that I went there. The Crescent buildings next to the Masonic Hall, for example, they're dated 1820. Behind was the canal wharf, known as the Crescent Wharf. You'll see in the map, I'm going to put up on the screen soon as part of this video. Can't just pop it in as I feel like, because this is actually very cleverly worked out, these series of 5 videos about the Manchester city centre infrastructure and the Bury, Bolton, Manchester Canal, how it works, has actually been planned out with a storyboard and a script. Everything I'm saying is scripted, even this, and this is all at the right time. Some stuff is dubbed, some stuff you'll see I'll turn the camera around and you see I'm actually talking live, although it feels like it's dubbed. Anyway, that map will be on the screen, part of this video. There's then the rebuilt section where we started, well, here, and Millwood locks. So we get to see 2 working locks, but beyond this the canal is gone really until Agecroft Cemetery. So there's no more examples of canal locks that are still in place anywhere along the canal. So we've got a good start, because we see what locks would have looked like. The first lock, lock 1, is a new one, and it's a deep lock. It's 6 metres deep, and it goes through an underground tunnel under all the roadworks and the original train line of the Liverpool-Manchester Railway. Let's concentrate on the canal from now then, in this video. So from the locks here, these are Millwood locks. These are part of the original canal. That's an altar. That's a Masonic house. Stephen Goddard says, welcome to my videos. Just the UK brief videos at a time. Welcome to another episode of finding no ghosts in the dark, because they don't exist. These are part of the original canal, but it went into ruin, and now they've replaced it all. They're going to develop around the area, and eventually all the buildings will surround the canal, and it'll look very nice. But it's not the original canal, but it helps people like me explain where it connected to the town centre. Obviously now a city centre. So excuse me, we can identify Crescent Wharf. Apparently the canal passes under the road from here into Salford University, as I said, at this fence. But trust me, that red brick wall at the back matches up with Bolton Canal Company too, It could be knocked down and used as a wall, rebuilt it, the brick. I think that's what this curb is, paying homage. But it's very old. It just, don't know. Somewhere on that site. Remember I predicted that coal needed to be brought into the site to keep the place warm and lit and cooking food, exactly. Because it's not actually steam and engines and all the rest that has changed the world. It is actually heat. It's that simple. Once we created fire, long ago, that's what changed the world for us. Cooking, and it's actually heat that powers pretty much everything. So the only thing that doesn't use naked flames is probably nuclear power. But it's heat that powered steam trains, heat that powers your car, heat that even your telly gets hot because of the electric current. So we found it. I'm not telling you how, but we found it. So we followed the map and we're at this point, and this is where I intend to start. I did a hint to the fact that I knew I'd be able to get to the cemetery. That is why there's little hints of ghosts and the Masons and the tall man thing, whether it's Slim Guy. So it's dark, very dark, and getting a spot of deja vu. I don't know what it is. I feel like I've been in this area before, and it feels like it was only 5 minutes ago. It's very spooky. Yeah, there's a dog kennels there. It's well known. It's even on search Google Maps. Dogs to you or something. Dogs for us. And it's shut down. So we've reached Agecroft Cemetery, and I peeked up from over that wall up there just the other night when I said I was lost, but I wasn't, and I knew this was here. I could see it in the dark, and you could see it as like 2 tram lines, and we're heading up that direction. Just thought I'd show you the dog kennels and the fact that it made me laugh, because it's all about time, and this won't make sense because I'm trying to layer it. That's the whole idea of doing it. It's not just archive footage, and layer it, and that won't make sense till it's all filmed. I'm filming it backwards. Like, this is the last video I filmed. The first video I filmed was when I got lost in Salford, obviously, but I filmed that first and I saved it. I didn't upload that yet, so the 4 videos that I upload go in linear time then and make more sense, but they film backwards. So heat is behind everything. So they needed the canal to take coal to generate heat for the site. I also said I had a feeling the water tower was linked to the Thirlmere aqueducts. That's also true. It then goes on into, I think it's St Peter's Square in Manchester. So it starts to show off that we brought water. So this place seems familiar. Remember I said Thirlmere aqueduct crossed just the other night, and I was up here. Thermal aqueduct is like up to 30 metres underground. That's a cover for it. Try and make out the logo. What's that? MC? I can count in Roman, luckily. Although that's not completely necessary, as it's not Roman. Manchester City Waterworks. I thought it was MCWW, and I realised WW wasn't Roman, unless they invented the internet and I wasn't aware of it. That's where we were, that house, remember? What if I'd have had my torch on me that night, like I said, which I've brought tonight. I'm fully prepared. I've even got shears to cut weeds out my way. We're doing it. It's the last thing I ever do. Let's get some old wall. Bit of old wallage never hurt anyone, did it? I have no idea how old that is, but it's extremely old. Part of the old cemetery, which could be kelp for all we know. By the way, yeah, that cover goes down to the original aqueduct, which comes from the Lake District. It goes to Eaton Park first, comes this way, 30 metres underground, but if they want to get it over a river, like here, or the canal, in this case, they lift it up like that, like a siphon. I hope you can see. So they can lift it right up, it'll go over the canal, right over the canal, like that, and it'll come down the other side, and it works like a siphon. As long as it drops down the other side, it'll carry on going all the way into Manchester, 30 metres underground again. You can lift it up and back down again. It's like a silly straw, you know, crazy straws you can get. Think of it like that. So that's what that is. So that's actually an aqueduct. That's why it's called an aqueduct. There's a strong supporting structure, thermal and Haweswater aqueducts. There's the old original bridge, black brick, tunnel, and we're through Agecraft Cemetery now, on our way up to Clifton. That simple, that quick. We finished the information, we got a bit more information, so it's time to just film its route. And that's just pure dirty. Drinking water, what, 70 plus miles, and now it's extended to over 90 miles, the aqueduct from the Lake District. So once we show the map, we'll flip through some of the reasons why we're showing ghosts. That will all be explained. I did a hint to the fact that I knew I'd be able to get to the cemetery. That is why there's little hints of ghosts and the Masons and the tall man's thing, whether it's Slim Guy. I don't have another channel, but most people on YouTube do another channel. So I was thinking of saving something like that for Halloween. Then I thought, I used to be really into it, like John and Ann Spencer and, you know, the ancient alien stuff, and way back, Arthur C. Clarke days, Peter Underwood. I know them all, read all the books. Actually have, but I actually debunk stuff. I'm totally, you know, like non-religious. I have nothing against religion, by the way. It's older than me, so it's not my business. But personally, well, I've read lots of the Bible and actually got a Quran in English once and read bits of it. Know a bit about Sikh and Buddhism. So to say I'm an atheist would be wrong. But that's along the lines, and it's like into physics and history, obviously, usually. But agnostic, at least. You can look that word up for yourself. So I'm wandering around in the dark to give it that ear. Yeah, I debunk stuff. There's never been one actual real photograph of anything. Even the modern stuff involving UFO footage, I can debunk that. You know, the Americans say they've unidentified flying objects. They don't say aliens, they say, and they're perfectly willing to show that Washington claim they don't know what they are. But what if their own soldiers or Air Force don't even know what they are, but the military high up does know what they are, and they flew past on purpose so that they could report that they had unidentified flying objects? The idea is to confuse everybody, and all the rest of the world will think, well, that's not ours, but everyone will think, I wonder if it's somebody else in the world. And it's the best way to cover up your latest military advancements. Could even just be special effects, but it's not evidence as such. So there you go. And even if it's just proof that somebody got higher technology in another country, that's a perfectly plausible possibility, so therefore it doesn't mean anything supernatural. The Chinese might just have a more advanced vehicle. It's that simple. So there you go. So I'm thinking of doing another little channel like that. Maybe like show a few clips of people who claim they've seen things and then say, that's ridiculous. And the Bigfoot, I could talk all night about these people who see Bigfoot. It's actually hilarious to me. Just all the guys want to drink beer, go in the hills, shoot off the guns and say that they saw things. But none of them actually probably, even if they admit it to themselves, think, yeah, well, I saw a shadow, I just fancied shooting my gun off.